بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. I would like to welcome all of you today, September 8th, 2020, on my graduate management class 512, Organizational Behavior and Leadership. And today we'll be discussing chapter 3, which is about perception and learning. And to start with, as a thought, is how much do we know about ourselves? How much do we know about others? And how much do we know about the organization that we are working with? Remember that we have discussed earlier that there are 3 levels of analysis in the OB, okay, personal level, and then group level and organizational level. Therefore, this is the personal, and this is a group, and this is the organizational level. At the same time, we said that there are connection between personal and the group level, and between personal and organizational level, and between the organizational level and the group level. This is the level of analysis that we usually takes at organizational behavior. And we just put a question of how much, okay? How much do we know? Okay? How much do we know at? How much do we know at? How much do we know about ourselves? How much do we know about others? And how much do we know about the organization that we are dealing with? Ourselves, others, and organization that we are working with. These are the 3 levels of analysis that we usually do. We discussed it early, and knowing ourselves, others, and organization, this is what we mean by perception. This is what we mean by perception. Okay? Therefore, this chapter we will be discussing the concept of perception and the concept of learning. Now, again, we'll talk about social perception. Social perception, what are others look like or like. Social perception encompasses the way we learn about others around us. Social perception is the process of combining, integrating, and interpreting information about others to gain accurate understanding of them. While attribution is the process through which individuals attempt to determine the causes behind other behavior. This is very important. Okay. Therefore, social perception, is interpreting information about others, while attribution cause or what cause behavior of others. For that, we have this social identity theory. What do you mean by social identity? Social identity is how we choose to learn about and define ourselves, who we are. We have personal identity, for example, my characteristics. I am 6 foot tall. I am outgoing person. I am interested in sports. Social identity, on the other hand, this is a group to which I belong. I am a Saudi. I am an employee with Aramco company. I am a student, graduate student at KFUPM. This is you, and this is compared to other. This is what we mean by who am I, and this is the social identity theory. Very interesting, okay? Personal identity, physical, mental attributes, personal, and while social identity, nationality, professions, organization, religion, family, or class. And the social identity theory, as we just discussed, is the view that people perceive others and themselves based on both their unique characteristics, personal identity, and their membership in various groups. In other words, social identity. Social identity theory indicates identification, positive reference group, and perceiving others. Now, perceiving others, when people compare themselves to others, they focus on the differences between themselves and other individuals. May falsely assume that others or other groups share qualities to make those groups different from the observer, different than me. Okay? Perceive differences negatively, especially when those doing the observing are in competition with observed group. If you compare yourself, if you are in Aramco, compare yourself compare yourself with the people on SABIC or Skiko or Saudi Airlines, okay? Or if you are KFUPM students, you compare yourself to other university, okay? Such inaccuracies and false categorization simplifies complex judgment of the at the cost validity. the attribution process, okay? We took the attribution process, correspondence, inferences. For instance, observe someone fall from the ladder. A worker tried to climb the ladder and he fall. You observe him. Assume that person is clumsy. Now, description, correspondent interference. What do we mean by that? The act, what someone does, which is climbing the ladder. Correspondence interference, the assumption that we made about that person, and disposition, what someone is like, clumsy. This is the attribution process. Okay. Now, the purpose of the attribution process is to determine two things. First, what trait and characteristics an individual process or disposition or dispositioning. And the second, which is causality, what accounts for his or her action. Making correspondent interference using act of judge disposition. Correspondence interfere or correspondence inference are judgments about people's dispositions based on what has been observed about their action. Now, but we have challenges in judging others accurately. While judging others, we make errors. Okay? People tend to conceal negative traits, leading to even further error. This is the attribution process. We have internal, external, causal attribution theory. This is by Kelly. We are going to discuss it. We talk about consensus, consistency, and distinctiveness. Okay, making those accurate inferences about others. As we said, there are several techniques to make more accurate correspondence inference. We have just natural observation. We observe people, okay? And the other one, there are certain situations that make us make inferences about others. Casual attribution of responsibility or answering the question why. We have certain cues, okay? There are two major classes of examination for causes of someone's behavior. Internal cues, external cues, causation or causal attribution. Why these things happen? Why the worker fall from ladder? Is it because the ladder is not good? It was not properly placed, or is it because the guy is a clumsy? Okay, but this is is it external or internal? Okay, now internal cues, there are these are under the control of the individual. And the external cues these are situations outside the control of the manager or of the worker or the individual. Now, Kelly's theories of causal attributions, okay, this judge whether another person action were caused by internal or external, okay, judged by internal or external cues or factors. And he suggested three types of information. Consensus is a high or low. Consistency is a high or low. Distinctiveness is it high or low? Consensus, the extent to which other people would behave in the same manner as a person being judged. Consensus. Does he do the same thing all the time? Okay. Consistency, okay, the extent to which the person being observed act the same way at other times. Okay. Now, consensus, the extent to which would other people do the same thing or not? This is consensus. Or is it only this person? Consistency, does this person does the same thing over and over again or not? This is called consistency. Is it high or low? Again, consistency. Is it high or low? These are the measures, okay? Now, distinctiveness, okay? Distinctiveness is the extent to which the observed person or the person behave in the same manner in other contexts. If we bring this person in other situation, would he behave the same way? Again, high or low, okay? And this is an attribution process example. Using the three indications to determine causality when all the three indicators, okay, when all these three indicators, okay, when all these three are high, then the cause is external. When all these three indicators high. When all these three indicators are low, then it is internal. So this is the conclusion of his theory. Let's take an example. Okay. This example that we have attribution process, we have causal attribution. We have, this is you observe an individual complaining about food services and decor in a restaurant to answer the question why. You note that, okay? And this is the conclusion about this person attribution, okay? Now, no one else complained. Consensus is low. This is versus several other are also complain. Consensus is high. Everybody, when you go to this restaurant, they complain. Okay? Therefore, this is high. While if it's only one person, is low. This person is always complain in this restaurant. This is consistency is high. Now, this person always complain. This person always complain in this restaurant. Consensus is high. Now, this person also complain in other setting versus this person, this is the distinctiveness here is low. While this person does not complain in other settings, distinctiveness here is high. And as a result, this person, she complained because she is difficult to please. This is internal attribution. Just this person is so difficult to please. No matter where you take him, no matter what you put him, no matter what you bring him, he's difficult to please. Okay? This is internal consensus. Now, versus the complaint because the restaurant is charitable. This is extra attribution. Everybody who comes, he feels the same way. Therefore, because the restaurant is terrible by itself, therefore, this is external attribution. Okay? Now, perceptual biases. Sometimes we make some biases, okay? Perceptual biases, what do we mean by that? Perceptual biases is a systematic error in perceiving other. We always make wrong perception about others. Perceptual biases is the predisposition that people have to misperceive others in various ways. These biases colored our perception. Very interesting. And therefore cause inaccurate judgment of people. So we have misconception, or we have misconception about them. And we have fundamental attribution error when we do that, okay? And this is the tendency to attribute other actions to internal causes or their trait, while largely ignoring external factors that may also have influenced behavior. People are prone to focus on internal causes of action. We blame the person, not the situation. And this is wrong. Okay. And for instance, this is a person. We have what we call halo effect. Okay. And this halo effect, keeping perception consistent. The halo effect is keeping this perception consistent, the tendency for overall impression of others to affect the subjective evaluation of their specific trait. Halo usually is a positive. Once a strong positive impression is formed of a person, everything that person does is viewed favorably. This person, he just does. One time I gave him a job and he did it extremely well. First time I know him, and I always assume this guy is so good. He is good in numbers, he's good with marketing, purchasing, management, leader. I just high. Okay. Therefore, I assume that this guy is so good, whatever I give him. This is what we call halo effect. Maybe he's not good with numbers. Maybe he's not good with working with others as a team member. Okay. Therefore, this is halo effect. Whenever we put positive effect about one person and we assume that everything is positive about him. Therefore, the more favorable someone is perceived on some characteristic, the more likely that individual will be perceived favorably in all other characteristics too. And this is not necessarily true, and we call it halo effect. Now, opposite to that, a person could make everything he does, okay, are low. He's not doing very well, okay? And first time I gave him that job or that work, he didn't do it so well. And I assume that this guy is not good. And this is again another error that we make, and this is called horns. Now, if the halo you judge by positive characteristics, horn is you judge by negative characteristics. This effect may also happen in reverse, which is the opposite of halo. A strong negative impression may adverse a color of the person's action. And this also could affect a lot whenever you do the performance evaluation for the halo effect or the horns effect. They affect when you make this when you make evaluation about the manager or workers. Therefore, this is the fundamental attribution error that we discussed halo effect, we discussed horn effect, and we said these also affect the evaluation when you make it at the end of the year. Team halo effect. As much as you have halo effect, positive effect on a person, you could have it for a team as well. that this team is super, they're good, they do everything right, and this could not be necessarily true. They might be good in one project and they might not necessarily be in another project, depending on what their expertise and depending on other factors. Okay. Therefore, this is the team. And we have also what we call similar to me effect. These are all biases. Similar to me effects. If a person, okay, if a person like me, then he is good. Okay. If a person like me, if you are like me, you must be pretty good. Okay. We have selective perception, which is focusing on some things while ignoring others. And we have first impression error, which is confirming one's own expectation. And first impression, okay, first impression, usually this is a tendency to base current judgment of others on earlier impression made of them, often ignoring any change in performance. We have also something called self-fulfilling prophecy, and this is part of perceptual biases, self-fulfilling prophecies. And we have very interesting Pygmalion effect, and we have Golem effect. And this have self-fulfilling prophecies is 4 steps. Very, very, very interesting to go through these concepts and see their background and where they come from. And now, what do you mean by self-fulfilling prophecies? Is the tendency for someone expectations about another to cause that person to behave in a manner consistent with those expectations. People live, especially children, up to the expectation of their father and mother. If they tell them you are good, you are gonna be one time a hero or a scientist or engineer, they try to live up to that expectation. On the other hand, if parents are not raising their children well, they told them you are not good, you don't understand, people always live to that expectation. Same things happen in the organization. Managers can take that role, okay? And he can have his worker live up to high expectation, or people don't understand, you are idiots, you are fools, or they lower the expectation. They themselves, they said, if we are fools, if we don't understand, if we are foolish, just go ahead and that's what we are. Well, those guys, wow, they always try to live up to higher expectation. Very, very interesting. Okay. Now, the Pygmalion effect, again, is a positive instant of that self-fulfilling prophecy, okay, to improve an individual performance. Therefore, the Pygmalion is a positive, okay, self-fulfilling prophecy. Where does this Pygmalion name come from? This name came from George Bernard Shaw play. This British famous writer. Okay, he has a play. From that play, or they call that the play Pygmalion, whose main character, Alyssa, is transferred from a simple flower girl to a proper lady by Professor Harry. And there is a movie also, My Fair Lady, is based on this play. Very interesting, where Now, where this the Pygmalion, where does this acronym came from? The original concept of came from Greek mythology, where Pygmalion was a king of Cyprus who carved and then fell in love with his ivory status of a woman. He carved status and he loved that ivory states. Okay, and then who was later brought to life, okay, in response to king's prayers. King started praying to his God that, convert this ivory status into life, and it came. It's a myth, Greek myth. And then he loved his work so much that, therefore, this is where Pygmalion came from. Now, on the other hand, okay, which is the negative, the golem effect. Golem effect is a negative instance of a self-fulfilling prophecy. You tell yourself, I'm not going to do this. I know that this is not going to happen. While Pygmalion, I know, I'm sure, I think it's going to happen. This is self-fulfilling positive, while golem is the negative, okay? The golem effect is the negative instance of self-fulfilling prophecy in which people holding low expectation of another tends to lower that individual performance. This term golem came from Jewish folklore, and it's another story that has animated being artificially created in the image of a man entirely from clay and other inanimate matter. Now, most importantly, that the image is associated with stupidity and clumsiness. Therefore, golem, negative, self-fulfilling prophecy, and associated with stupidity and clumsiness. While Pygmalion is positive and associated with positive or high expectation. Now, again, we said there are 4 steps. Okay, self-fulfilling prophecy process have 4 basic steps. Managers form expectation of workers. They put certain expectation, either good or bad. People again live to that expectation. Managers behave consistently with these expectations. Okay, and number 3, managers behave affects workers, manager themselves. And number 4, workers respond to how they were treated by the manager. Now, the self-fulfilling prophecy implication on management, because worker will reflect the attitudes taken toward them. Managers should expect great things of their people and act accordingly. Very interesting. Okay. Other perceptual biases, stereotype. Why sometimes we rely on stereotyping? What is the danger of using stereotyping? There are negative organizational impact, and which is inaccurate information, and negative individual impact, and these are threats. Stereotype, a belief that all members of a specific group share similar trait, and are prone to behave in the same way. Why do we rely on stereotyping? Stereotyping is another way of reducing complex circumstances and decisions into simple form. Why do we do stereotype? We try to simplify things. just make one judgment for the whole group, and this is not correct. You cannot judge a person by his group. Okay? The danger of using stereotyping in organization, okay? We have negative organizational impact or inaccurate information, and decision making based on poor information result into bad decision making. Decision making based on stereotyping also result into bad decision making. Therefore, we have to be very, very careful. Now, this is the negative organizational impact. What about the negative individual's impact, which is the stereotype threat? The stereotype threat, if the person in the organization knows that he belongs to a certain group and he expects people to think of him negatively, therefore this would be a threat to the individual. In other words, a stereotype threat is the uncomfortable feeling that people have when they run the risk of fulfilling a negative stereotype associated with the group to which they belong. Now, employment, perceiving others, organizational application in the employment interviews, employees, performance appraisal, and corporate image. Perceiving others. How do we perceive others? We talked about individual, groups, and we'll talk about organization. How do perceiving others? Now, initial performance. The guys did excellent, but over that time, he did poor. Okay, quality of actual work performed with time go down. Okay, this is called with the current performance. Okay, now initial impression, poor to excellent. Person he did so well, excellent, and over the time, same current over the time, evaluation of worker performance is excellent. Therefore, this person current impression match initial impression, while this person current impression does not match the current performance. Now, impression management, effort made by individuals to improve how they appears to others. Impression management effort include modifying the dress, speech, and manners used to discuss oneself and accomplishments. How, in other words, how do we market ourselves? How do we sell ourselves when there are interviews, and how do we talk about ourselves? Performance appraisal, which is formal judgment about performance. We have performance appraisal. Okay, we have performance appraisal, which is the process of evaluating employees in various work related dimensions. And this performance appraisal could be annual, semi-annual, or as needed basis, and an inherently biased process. It is because performance appraisal are done by humans to evaluate humans, okay? All of the subjective biases that we discussed can be brought into play, can affect this evaluation. Even the best managers will have biases that may influence appraisal. Okay, perceptual biases. We discussed the Pygmalion effect and Golem effect. This is the general case of self-fulfilling prophecy. We said Pygmalions is positive expectation, while Golem is negative expectation. Here, manager form expectation of workers. Managers behave constantly with that expectation. With the Pygmalion, emotional and professional support is given, while with the Golem effect, emotional and professional support withheld. Now, managers' behavior affect workers. In the Pygmalion, the added experience and boosted confidence, while with the Golem effect, we have limited experience and lower confidence. This will result into workers respond to how they were treated by managers. If they are Pygmalion effect, we have good performance, while the Golem effect, we have poor performance. Perceptual biases, the stereotype affect. This is depending on the performance on the stereotype dimension, performance, okay, and the stereotype dimension, and which is here. This is the expected performance, okay? Based performance, expected performance based on a stereotype. Here, negative stereotype identification. Now, people live always up to the expectation. If there is negative stereotype, they are not going to exceed what's given to them. If it is positive, performance can go way high because you always give them positive expectation. Performance is lower in keeping with the stereotype when negative stereotype is identified than when not identified. Here you have negative stereotype, here you don't have. Therefore, performance go high. Good. As we discussed, this affects the performance appraisal, impression management, we talked about it, and corporate image. Okay? And this affects also the corporate image itself. This is application of impression management. We'll just use some, okay, application of impression management. Impression management technique, self-promoting. These are the percentage of the people who will do that. This is a survey description. Directly describing oneself in position, manner of the situation at hand. For instance, I am a hard worker. 100% they use that technique, okay, that with interviews, they always present themselves as I am a hard worker, 100%, almost everyone. Personal stories, okay? For example, in my old job, I work late anytime it was needed. 96% they said they use this technique. Opinion conformity. For example, agreeing with something the interviewer says, they said here 54% will do that. Entitlements. Example, I was responsible for 90% sales increase in the result. 50% agree. Justification. Okay, example, our team did not win a lot, but it's just how you play the game that really matters. 17% agree. Making excuses, okay? I didn't complete the application form because the placement center ran out of them, 13%. Very interesting, these applicant impression management. We'll go into the concept of learning. Learning or adapting to the world. Learning is relatively permanent change in behavior occurs in a result, occurring as a result of experience. Learning. I go something, I learn it, it's permanent, it's with me. Okay. We have there are two methods most likely to occur in organizational are what we call it operant condition and observational learning. The operant condition is this example. Okay, manager shows employees how to do the job. As a result, employees perform job properly. Then manager praise employees. He said, very good job. Eh? Then as a result, employee perform job properly in the future. How does the operant condition work? These are the steps. Okay, when the manager shows employees how to do a job, we call it antecedents. This is conditions leading up to the behavior. When the employee perform job properly, behavior here takes place, activities performed. The consequences, which is the result of the behavior, manager praise the employees, and if consequences are positive, the behavior is repeated. Employees perform job properly in the future. Now, reinforcement contingencies, we have a stimulus presented or withdrawn. We have this ability or stimulus, either pleasant or unpleasant, in both cases, pleasant, unpleasant, pleasant. We have the name of the contingencies: positive reinforcement, punishment, extension, and negative reinforcement. And we have a strength of responses. We have increased or decreased. Example, praise from supervisor encourage ongoing the praise behavior. Whenever you make good praise, this will encourage workers to do it again. Decrease when criticized from supervisor, discourage, okay, they encourage punishment behavior. When he get punishment and pleasant behavior, then it will be decreased, okay? Criticism of supervisor, discourage enacting the punishment behavior. Now, withdrawn, okay, this is a pleasant extension, and in case of response was decreased, we falling to praise a helpful act, reduce the odds of helping in the future. I may not do it again. Unpleasant, negative reinforcement, this is increase, failure, criticism is avoiding by doing whatever the supervisor is want. I will do only whatever he wants. Therefore, schedule of reinforcement could be continuous or partial. Interval could be fixed or variable. Ratio could be fixed or variable. This is the example. Observer, here, the worker, and pay attention to model. He watch what he's doing. He's watching. Okay, this is the behavior itself, doing the job on this cut machine or whatever type of machine. Remember what model did, and he's observing, okay? Practice model behavior, motivate and to imitate the model. He does the same thing. He watch him, he does the same thing, imitate model behavior, okay? Good. We'll go about the, reinforcement. categories that we discuss, okay, for reinforcement contingencies: positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, punishment, or extension. Positive reinforcement, as you said, as a brought an example, when you make report and give it to your manager. Positive reinforcement, manager said, "Oh, this is very good, thank you." Okay, this is positive reinforcement. Negative reinforcement, when the manager tell you this is not a good job, try to do it again. Okay, now punishment, when when the manager said, "What is this? This is very lousy job. This is very bad report." This is punishment. Start, raising voice on you. Extension, like also punishment, that if a manager or somebody see you smoking in non-smoking place, you might get punished or might get a fine. Okay. Extension, rewarding, when the manager do not respond or give feedback. Sometimes you want some feedback, either positive or negative. Not giving any feedback, this is called extension. Okay. So this is called extension. How do we use it? Extension. For instance, if a person work and he think he has sense of humor, and each time whenever there is conversation serious about work, he just give a humor. If you are a manager, extension is not to respond to his joke, not to encourage him. You don't laugh. And whenever he says something, you just don't respond to that. Not responding, this is extension. Not laughing, you don't encourage him to feel more humor and give more jokes. This is job. This is not place where you say jobs. If you don't want to punish him or tell him in his face, look, this is you don't, but you don't encourage him whenever he give jokes. Okay, this is another example for extension. Now, the 4 steps, as we said, for observational learning. Okay. Okay. We have observational learning. Okay. Is or modeling. Okay. Steps in observational learning, 4 type, which is paying attention, retention, okay, or retain or remember what has been done, and behavioral, okay, and behavioral reproduction and motivation. Okay. Training is learning about developing job skills. Training is learning and developing job skills. Training is the process. Definition of the training, we'll talk about the training, okay, is the process of systematically teaching employees to acquire and improve job-related skills and knowledge. Varieties training can take many forms of from formal observation learning through the following more formal methods. What are these methods? Varieties: classroom training, okay, classroom training, apprenticeship program, okay, which is apprenticeship. These are formal training programs involving both on-the-job classroom training and usually over a long period of time, often used training often used for training people in the skilled order. The program may regulated by professional and trade association. This is the apprentice apprenticeship program. We have cross-culture training, CCT. Cross-culture training is a systematic way of preparing employees to live and work in other countries successfully, and this training would include language, culture, and etiquette. We have the corporate universities, and these are corporate centers developed or devoted to handle companies' training needed to a full-time basis. Example of these corporate universities: Disney, they have special university. McDonald's, they have their own university. We have executive training program, which all of you should be familiar with. These are sessions in which companies systematically attempt to develop their top leaders in either specific skills or general managerial skills. And we have the famous e-training learning, which is the training based on disseminating information online, either through the internet or over the company's intranet. And we have effective training keys through participation, through repetition, transfer of training, and through feedback. We have example of 360 degree. Participation, which refers to the activities involved in the process of learning, while repetition, repeatedly perform the task, increase the speed of the learning, and the transfer of information, the degree to which the skills learned during the training session may apply to the performance in the job. And we have feedback, which is knowledge about the result of the behavior. 360 degree, we have person, we ask feedback from his boss, feedback from people who work under him, and feedback from his peers, other department. This is what we call 360 degree evaluation. Okay, 360 degrees. Does the training, the knowledge we give him, does it help him in his job? Does it make him more productive? How do we judge that? We ask his manager, we ask people who work under him, and we ask his peers or their other department or at the same level. This is why we call it 360 degree. Okay. Now, organizational behavior management, discipline, and progressive discipline. We use discipline. Discipline is the process of systematically administering punishment in order to modify behavior in the organization. Can we modify behavior? Yes. By using what? Punishment. Okay. Disciplinary practice in organization, okay, they can range from very formal system to high informal means of dispensing disciplines. Progressive disciplines, do it, okay, the practice of gradually increasing the severity of punishment for employees who exhibit repeated unacceptable job behavior. Publication or publicize the action. Take immediate action. Do not wait to punish. Okay? And there are key using punishment effectively that we are going to go through them, but I would like to discuss first the quantum disciplinary measures quantums. Start with, this is most lenient all the way to most harsh. Start with most lenient. Talk to employees about the problem. Then you go to warning him orally. Then you go to written warning. Then you go to coach employees about the problem. Okay? Try to solve it with him. Then you go to provide the special in-house service to help the employees. If it doesn't work, you send employees to formal training help. If it doesn't work, transfer employees to different departments. If it doesn't work, intervenes in the situation. Then you go to put the employees on probation. Then you go number 10, withdrawal portion of the merit pay, money here. Suspend without pay, you go all the way number 12, which is termination. But this is the quantum of disciplinary measures. Effective disciplinary, okay? Effective disciplinary, deliver punishment immediately after undesirable response, give moderate level of punishment, punish undesired behavior, not the person, punish his behavior, not the person. Use punishment consistently across occasions, okay? Punish everyone equally for same infraction. Clearly communicate areas for punishment. Do not follow punishment with contingent reward. Very, very important. You give punishment, you wait. If you would like to reward him, do it at a later so that the employee will not get confused which is which. And this will conclude our session for today. I would like to thank you. And as usual, I would like to take you through the my board so that you know what have we discussed today in this organizational behavior and leadership, chapter 3, participation and learning, and we discussed these matter. Thank you very much, and you have a good evening, good night, or good afternoon, wherever you are.